Thinking about how Nick looked back then still freaks me the fuck out. Anyone ever see a blobfish outside of water? Imagine something like that, but darker looking with sickly milky white eyes. Do you think that'll stop the swelling? I don't know. Just keep the damn ice pack on him. By the way, how are his bandages? Damp. At least they aren't leaking anymore. We pulled over earlier to try and do something about Nick's present condition. The best we could do was to try and squeeze some of the poison from him. Carl did this by cutting into him and squeezing some blood out of his window. It smelled worse than roadkill left out in the sun for a month. Hey, if we're going to have to keep bloodletting him, do you think we could see if we can find some leeches to do the work for us? I mean, this area does look like the kind of place you could find him in. Not a bad idea. The problem is it'd probably take a fuck ton of those little suckers to get the poison out of him. The blurring of siren lights interrupted their conversation. Shit, I must have been going too fast. Carl kept his hands on the wheel as the cop came around. Do you know why Christ, what the fuck is that smell? When he noticed Nick, he quickly backed away some from the vehicle. Sorry, officer. Our friend here is sick, and we're trying to get him somewhere quick. How did this happen? Animal bite. Were you three camping out in the woods? We were out there for a little, just to stop and stretch. So you weren't camping. Mind if I take a look in your trunk then? Realizing that the cop was going to discover our gear anyway, Carl admitted to him that we had been camping in the forest nearby. Are you aware that you can face a fine and jail time for illegally camping in the forest near here? We had to. Save it for the judge. I'll call an ambulance for your friend here, but you two are coming with me. The cop glanced at me before returning his attention back to Carl. You and him get out of the vehicle and place your hands on the hood of your car. We did as told. He went around to Nick's side to get a closer view of him. That was a fatal mistake on his part. He looks even worse than I thought, he said, holding his shirt over his nose. Nick's eyes had been closed up until that point. They shot open, and he let out a croak eerily similar to the toads. Before the cop could react, Nick threw up, projectile vomiting venom directly into his face. It burns! Oh God, it burns! He screamed, clutching his face while rolling back and forth on the road. Oh shit, I yelled. We got out of the car and went over to him. To our shock, there was steam coming off of him. That meant that the poison was getting stronger. Do you think we can get him somewhere too? Well, I wouldn't feel right about leaving him here, but I don't know if there's anything we can do for him. He was letting out moans of pain. Between his fingers, we could see parts of his face beginning to burn and sizzle. His eyes were melting out, and the poison was going to reach his brain soon. Get one of those blankets from the back. Knowing what he planned on doing, I did as he said. As I got out one of our blankets, I heard the sound of Carl firing off his gun, made quieter by a silencer that he had attached to it. The sound of it made my stomach drop. I was worried, not only because of the fact that we just killed a man, but now being around Nick was putting us in severe danger. I handed Carl the blanket and he rolled it out. The cop now lay still with a bleeding hole in the middle of his forehead. Using my crutches, I rolled him onto the blanket. Then Carl wrapped him up. Luckily, we happened to be right next to a lake. It was just a matter of using some of our ropes to tie some heavy rocks to him, then rolling him into the lake afterward, followed by his car. I really hope we don't have to stay here for very long, I said grimly, as Carl was putting his car back in drive. That's an understatement, Pete. Carl had turned Nick over so that the risk of him puking on us would be greatly reduced. While this did bring some relief, It was still nerve-wracking having to keep a constant eye on him. We reached the town shortly later. "I gotta get some gas," Carl said, pulling into the station. "Want me to get you anything while I'm inside?" "Yeah, a get out of jail free card might come in handy later." "Relax. It's not like either of us wanted to do it, but you saw how he was. He would have died soon anyway. Saving him from the rest of that pain was the humane thing to do. I guess. At least the venom didn't hit Nick's face. See, Pete? There's always a silver lining. Now, did you actually want anything while I'm in there?" "Some breath mints would be nice." He chuckled at that. "All right, I'll be back shortly. Relax. Try to act casual." That was easier said than done with how I was feeling. Every police car that happened to drive by the station instantly put me on edge. "I'm back," Carl said from behind me, making me jump. "Don't do that. You scared the shit out of me." "I told you to relax, didn't I? You'll end up drawing attention to us if you're all jittery. Anyway, here." He handed me a bag containing the things that he bought. Along with the mints I asked for, he also got some drinks, snacks, and what I was most thankful for, air freshener. Carl pumped his gas and got back into the car. "Oh, yeah, I was talking with the cashier in there. I asked him if he happened to know anybody nearby who could help us with what Nick has." "What did he say?" "Apparently, there's an old woman in town who people sometimes see about that kind of stuff. The guy said she's a little strange, but she's supposed to be legit." "Where in town is she?" "Oh, that guy gave me directions to her house. Said it should only take about 10 minutes to get there from here. Do you mind reading them to me? I want to keep my eyes on the road." "No problem." The directions given to us ended up sending us up a shadowy dirt road. Branches of trees stretched over it, almost reminding me of arms reaching forward. "How ominous," I said. "It kind of reminds me of some of the roads outside of town." "Well, let's hope there aren't any returned around here," Carl jokingly replied. "By the way, where's the next turn at?" I glanced down at the paper. It says her house should be just up ahead. "Oh, yeah, I think I see her driveway." He turned onto it. The woman's driveway curved upward into a hill. The house wasn't actually visible until we reached the top, due to the abundance of branches in the way. From the looks of it, guessing that the place hadn't been landscaped in over half a century would be a safe bet. The house itself made the road seem akin to a stroll through Candyland. To start with, it was big. Not mansion big, pretty sizable though. I think the paint was either black or brown, although it was hard to tell with all the shadows overlapping it, not to mention the fact that the paint was peeling in several places. "Well, this looks welcoming."